All right, welcome back to Singapore Property Talk Law. I'm Damien, and we love to dig deep into all things Singapore property,
And I'm Serene, here to help make sense of it all, especially in today's market.
which, let's be honest, can feel a bit like a roller coaster sometimes.
Absolutely, but hey, that's what makes it exciting, right?
True that. And speaking of exciting, today we're diving into Real Estate Learn to Succeed the First Time by Joseph Allen.
This book is like a treasure trove of practical advice for anyone looking to navigate the real estate world, whether you're buying your first HDB or thinking about flipping houses.
One of the things that really struck me about Allen's approach is his emphasis on research. He's all about doing your homework before you even start looking at properties.
Yeah, he stresses understanding the market, like really understanding at different neighborhoods, the types of properties available, HDBs, condos, landed.
It's like, don't just jump into the deep end without knowing how to swim, right?
Exactly. Figure out what you want to achieve. Are you after rental income, long-term appreciation, or are you dreaming of flipping those houses like a pro?
And speaking of flipping, Alan's super practical about budgeting, which is something that can easily get out of hand, especially in Singapore.
He's not just talking about the purchase price either. He wants you to factor in everything, stamp duties, legal fees, renovation costs, even those monthly bills while you're getting the place ready.
It's those hidden costs that can really sneak up on you.
Absolutely, which is why he suggests creating a cost folder before you even start house hunting.
A cost folder. Okay, I like where this is going. Tell me more.
Basically, you gather realistic estimates for things like rewiring, kitchen installations, all those common repairs, especially in older flats. Like, have you ever dealt with those balcony issues in older HDBs?
Oh, don't even get me started on balconies. It's like a whole other world of potential costs.
Right, but having that folder means you're going into viewings with your eyes wide open, no nasty surprises later on.
Makes sense. And it probably helps you negotiate a better price, too, if you already know what you're potentially getting into.
Exactly. He's also got some great tips on saving money along the way, things like setting up accounts with local builders merchants to get discounts.
Oh, that's a good one. I never thought of that.
And don't forget about those government grants for renovations. It's about being savvy and stretching your dollar as far as possible.
All right, so we've talked about research, budgeting, but one thing that always makes my head spin a little is this whole concept of equity.
Don't worry, it's not as complicated as it sounds. Equity is basically the difference between your property's market value and what you still owe on your loan.
So the bigger that difference, the more equity you have, right?
Precisely. And the more equity you have, the more financial freedom you have. You can refinance, use it for another investment, or just sleep soundly knowing you're building wealth.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's not just about how much your place is worth on paper, it's about how much of that value you actually owe WN, free and clear.
Exactly. And Alan talks about how different types of valuations come into play, for bank loans, for the market itself, and even for insurance purposes.
So it's like having multiple price tags on the same property. That's confusing.
It can be, but each valuation serves a different purpose. For instance, a bank might be super cautious and focus on the property's loan-to-value ratio, while the market might be driven by, hype or scarcity.
I guess it's about understanding which valuation matters in each situation.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's say we've done our research, we've got our budget figured out, and we're finally ready to buy. Alan talks about a few different approaches, right?
Yeah, he covers short sales, auctions, and of course going through a real estate agent, which is probably the most common way here in Singapore.
Each approach has its own pros and cons. Short sales can be great bargains, but they often come with a lot of work. Auctions are exciting, but you need be ready to make quick decisions and have your financing lined up in advance.
I can see myself getting caught up in the excitement of an auction and bidding way more than I intended.
It happens. That's why Alan emphasizes the importance of sticking to your budget no matter what. And going through an agent can provide more guidance and support, but of course there are agent fees to consider.
So it's like choosing your adventure, which path best suits your risk tolerance and your goals.
Exactly. And speaking of adventures, once you've found that dream property, you're ready to make an offer. And that's where Alan's negotiation tips come in.
Ooh, I love a good negotiation tactic. Spill the beans, what are his secrets?
Well, he talks about looking for tells that might indicate there's room for negotiation. How long has the property been on the market?
Ah, so if it's been sitting there for months, the seller might be getting desperate.
Exactly. Also, compare the asking price to similar properties in the area. Is it inflated? Are there obvious repairs needed? That's all leverage for you.
It's like playing poker. You got to read the other player, right?
Exactly. He also emphasizes never making an offer directly to the seller. Always go through an agent.
I guess that keeps things professional and gives you more bargaining power.
Precisely. And he recommends including contingencies in your offer, like subject to a satisfactory property report.
Ah, so you're protected if any nasty surprises pop up during the inspection.
Exactly. It's about managing risk and making sure you're making a sound investment.
Okay, let's imagine we snag that dream property. Congratulations. Now comes the fun part, refurbishment. Alan breaks down the whole process into 3 clear phases, which I think can be super helpful if you're feeling overwhelmed.
Yes, definitely. It's easy to get lost in the details, so having a clear roadmap is crucial.
Okay, hit me with those phases. I'm already feeling a little stressed just thinking about renovations.
First up is initial preparation, which is basically demolition and removal, stripping everything down to the bare bones. Think of it as a fresh start, a blank canvas for your vision.
I can see myself getting a little too enthusiastic with the sledgehammer at this stage.
Just be careful and prioritize safety, especially when dealing with things like asbestos. If in doubt, call in the pros.
Good advice. So once the demolition dust settles, what's next?
We move on to the first fix where all the structural and concealed work happens. Plumbing, electrical, any major repairs, this is the foundation of your renovation.
I bet this is where meticulous planning is absolutely key.
You got it. Alan stresses the importance of scheduling everything carefully, especially when you've got multiple contractors coming and going. You don't want plumbers tripping over electricians.
Oh, the chaos. Okay, so we've got the guts of the renovation sorted. What's the final phase?
The second fix, this is where things get exciting: drywall, tiling, fixtures, painting, all that good stuff. It's where you really start to see your vision coming to life.
Ah, the finishing touches. But I can also see how this is where it's easy to overspend if you're not careful.
Absolutely. Alan has some great tips for managing costs during this phase. He's big on ordering materials in advance, sticking to off-the-shelf options where possible, and of course getting detailed, itemized quotes from contractors to avoid any budget blowouts.
Those are some solid tips. Now, I know Alan's a big advocate for DIY, right?
He is, but not just for the cost savings. He sees it as a way to learn, to connect with the process, even build relationships with the contractors.
That's such a cool perspective. It's like you're not just renovating a property, you're gaining new skills and maybe even making some friends along the way.
Exactly. It's about turning what can be a stressful process into a positive, empowering experience.
And speaking of empowering, you know what else Alan's big on?
Let me guess. Building relationships.
You got it. Not just with contractors, but with suppliers, even other investors. It's all about creating a network of people who can support you on your real estate journey.
And finding a mentor, someone who's been there, done that, and can offer guidance based on their own experience.
Someone to bounce ideas off of and learn from their mistakes, that's invaluable.
Absolutely. So it's not just about the bricks and mortar, it's about the people you surround yourself with.
All right, well, we've covered a lot of ground today, from research and budgeting to renovations and building relationships. And this is just the beginning.
There's so much more to explore in Alan's book, especially when it comes to flipping houses and turning those real estate dreams into reality.
So stay tuned. We'll be back soon with part 2, where we'll dive even deeper into the world of house flipping and share more of Alan's insights. Welcome back to Singapore Property Talk Law. We're still deep in Joseph Allen's book, Real Estate: Learn to Succeed the First Time. And this time we're tackling something that I know a lot of you are keen on: flipping houses.
Flipping houses? It sounds glamorous, doesn't it?
It does, but I have a feeling it's a lot more work than they show on those TV shows, right?
Oh, absolutely. Alan makes it very clear it's a business, not just a hobby. And one of the first things he suggests is considering a partnership.
Ah, the power of teamwork. 2 heads are better than 1, especially when you're dealing with all the complexities of a flip.
Right. He talks about how a partnership can bring different skills to the table. Maybe one of you is great with numbers, the other has a knack for design, plus more resources, financial firepower.
Yeah, if you're splitting those renovation costs, you could probably tackle bigger projects.
Exactly. But Alan is also big on setting clear ground rules. He even suggests a formal contract, not just a handshake agreement.
Ah, so no room for misunderstandings or he said, she said down the line.
Exactly. It protects everyone involved. And of course, he stresses the importance of business insurance.
Okay, that makes sense. Got to cover all those bases, especially when you're dealing with contractors and potential liabilities.
Absolutely. And Alan breaks down the different types of insurance you should consider: property insurance, liability coverage. He really recommends talking to an expert to figure out what's right for your situation.
So partnership sorted, insurance in place. What's next on Alan's house flipping checklist?
Budgeting, of course.
The dreaded B word.
Can't escape it. And Alan gives some great advice on creating a realistic budget. One thing he stresses is breaking the project down into those phases we talked about earlier, remember?
Initial prep, first fix, second fix. Got it.
And assigning a budget to each phase so you can keep track of spending and avoid going overboard.
Like having mini budgets within the overall budget. Keeps things organized.
Right. He also recommends getting those itemized quotes from contractors, really detailed, so there are no hidden surprises lurking in the fine print.
No sneaky extra cost.
And he advises prioritizing essential repairs and upgrades over purely cosmetic stuff.
Ah, so focusing on things that actually add value, not just making it look pretty.
Exactly. Think functional kitchen, updated bathrooms, stuff that buyers really care about. And don't forget those hidden costs, permits, inspections.
Those pesky hidden costs, they always seem seem to pop up, don't they?
Always. Alan suggests setting aside a contingency buffer, maybe 10–20% of your budget.
It's like having an emergency fund for your flip.
Exactly. And remember all those money-saving tips we discussed, they apply here too. Building relationships with suppliers, negotiating discounts.
Even doing some DIY if you're handy.
Exactly. Every little bit helps the bottom line. Okay, now let's talk about auctions. They can be a great way to find deals, but they come with risks.
Yeah, I can see the appeal, but also the potential for disaster.
Right. Alan compares it to a poker game. You need to be prepared, decisive, and know when to walk away. No getting caught up in the excitement and blowing your budget.
Easy to say, harder to do when you're in the heat of the moment.
True. But due diligence is crucial, even though time is limited. Alan says you need to assess the property, estimate those repair costs, and research comparable sales. Figure out your maximum bid, and then stick to it no matter what.
Discipline is key. Okay, let's say you've successfully flipped a house. Congratulations. Now you need to market that masterpiece.
Time to show off your hard work.
What are Alan's top tips for presenting a property and finding the right buyer?
He's a big believer in choosing the right real estate agent, someone with a proven track record, a strong online presence. So much of real estate happens online these days.
Professional photos, virtual tours, all that good stuff.
Absolutely. And don't forget those traditional methods, open houses, local advertising, reach as many potential buyers as possible.
Makes sense. And then there's the pricing. How do you find that sweet spot between maximizing profit and actually attracting buyers?
It's a balancing act. Alan says, do your research, look at recent comparable sales, consider the property's condition, its unique features, price it slightly above what you actually want to sell it for.
So you're leaving room for negotiation.
Exactly. Be realistic, but give yourself some wiggle room for those offers.
Okay, now let's talk about the less glamorous but equally important stuff, the legal side of things.
Contracts, taxes, no escaping those.
Right. And Alan doesn't shy away from these details. He really stresses having a good lawyer on your team, someone who can handle the paperwork, make sure you're compliant with all the regulations.
Protect your interests. A good lawyer can save you so much hassle and potentially a lot of money in the long run.
Agreed. And then there are taxes, a part of any business, unfortunately.
Alan emphasizes understanding the tax implications of flipping houses. Work with a tax advisor, make sure you're doing everything by the book.
No, trying to outsmart the tax man.
Not a good idea. And finally, something that's often overlooked but so valuable, your network.
Ah, the power of connections. I bet this is where those relationships with contractors, suppliers, other investors come in handy.
Exactly. He talks about building a network of trusted professionals who can support you, contractors, plumbers, electricians, real estate agents, lawyers, the whole shebang.
It's like assembling your own real estate dream team.
And finding a mentor, someone who's been there, done that, they can offer guidance, share their experiences, help you avoid those costly mistakes.
Learn from the best. So flipping houses, it's more than just buying, fixing, and selling. It's a business, and it takes strategy, a solid network, and definitely a willingness to put in the work.
And Alan's book is a great guide to navigating this world. He doesn't just want you to be successful. He wants you to find your own unique path in real estate.
And that's what we'll be exploring in part 3, right?
Exactly. We'll talk about how to discover your niche, your specialty, and create a real estate business that reflects your passion.
Sounds exciting. So stay tuned for part 3 of our deep dive into Joseph Allen's real estate. Learn to succeed the first time. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to Singapore Property Talk Law. We've journeyed through buying, renovating, even flipping houses with Joseph Allen's book as our guide. But this last bit, this is what really got me thinking.
Yeah, Alan doesn't just want you to be good at real estate. He wants you to stand out, find your unique edge.
It's like anyone can learn the basics, but what makes you the go-to person? What's that special something?
He calls it your value proposition. What can you offer that nobody else can? Maybe you have an amazing eye for design. You can turn those boring condos into something spectacular.
I like that. It's like, yeah, you're making a profit, but you're also bringing something unique to the table.
Or maybe you specialize in eco-friendly renovations, sustainable materials, energy-efficient solutions. That's a growing market, especially here in Singapore.
Right. People are becoming more and more conscious of their environmental impact. So it's not just about making money. It's about aligning with your values, attracting the right clients.
Exactly. And remember, the market is always changing. Trends come and go, buyer preferences shift, neighborhoods evolve.
You got to stay ahead of the curve, right? Can't just rely on the same old tricks.
Alan encourages us to be adaptable, always learning, refining our skills. How can we keep adding value in this ever-changing landscape?
So as we wrap up this deep dive into real estate, learn to succeed the first time, I think the big question for our listeners is, what's your unique value?
What sets you apart? What are you passionate about? What are you good at? Let those things guide you.
And whether you're just starting out or you're already a seasoned investor, remember there's always more to learn, more to explore in this exciting world of Singapore real estate.
Absolutely. It's a journey, and Alan's book is a great roadmap to get you started.
Thanks for joining us on Singapore Property Talk Law. We'll catch you next time for another deep dive into all things property. Until then, happy investing. CCE.